Poverty is not just a problem for the poor, it affects everyone. The number of school-aged children in poverty has jumped from 16 to 22% in the last 8 years. The number of poor that graduate from high school is barely 50% nationwide, compared to nearly 90% of the non-poor. The current unemployment rate for high school dropouts is over 50% greater than that for high school completers. Every year, over 1 million students drop out, costing the government almost $1/5 trillion over a lifetime. With a shrinking middle class, poverty is growing the underemployment rate, and it's economically unsustainable. The problem is critical, and if unchecked, will lead to dramatic changes in our lifestyle. But you can help solve the problem and ensure that every student graduates job or college ready.
They don't teach you these things when you learn how to become a teacher.
Through years of study, learning expert and author Eric Jensen has found that engagement is a key factor in the academic success of economically disadvantaged students. He travels the country working with teachers and schools to help them learn strategies for engaging with their students. At a conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico, Eric and a group of Title I teachers talk about their experiences.
You can't just take kids that are here and say, okay, this is, because getting the staff to buy into it, you know, it's a huge issue.
One of the problems with the students is that they just don't know how to do school. They haven't been taught. You know, they don't go home and talk to their families about what they did during that day.
And I think the engagement part that we're learning about is important. It really is key in building those relationships with those students.
You simply can't lower expectations for these kids. You actually have to raise it, and you have to make it as difficult as possible so that they understand that they're working hard for something and they put the effort into being successful. And you can't accept it.
I had a really crazy upbringing. You know, I mentioned my first memory in life was being 2 years old and just having my mom walk out, and, you know, I'm just a basket case full of tears, and that was just the start of it. Everything just went downhill from there. You know, I went through stepmother after stepmother, and the first one I had was really abusive and violent. And, you know, when I was at school, I just noticed that I was different than other kids at school. It seemed like I was the one that always wanted to sit in the back of the class, and I wasn't connecting a lot with what was going on in the classroom. But a couple times something happened that just a light went on for me. And when I think back on it, it was always teachers that connected with me and always teachers that engaged me. And so once I got interested in all of this brain science, you know, neuroscience, just like, it was like this big light goes on in my brain. I started piecing the puzzle together and go, wow, this is what's going on with kids who grow up in poverty. Their brain's different. Their brain's different. And the question is like, what makes it different? And also, what do you do about it? And I realized that what works is creating the connections that many kids didn't have, because that's what worked for me. And what works is getting kids into the process, because the way many kids are is they disconnect from the process. They just say, I don't want to play the game, or they'll be angry because they've had adults pretty much rip them off, you know. They leave them in their life somehow. And so the question then is, what do we do about it? How do we help them? And so I've found that it really resonated with teachers, administrators to say, engaging kids from poverty is really the ticket. And you engage with relationships, you engage with what you do in class. And it's really made a profound difference in many schools.
Teachers are the biggest difference makers. We're visiting Highland High, a Title I high school just across town where teachers are doing just that, using Eric Jensen's engagement strategies to make a difference in the lives of their students. We'll show you 4 teachers, Scott Virtue, Melinda Forward, Louise Guzman, and Heather McGuire successfully engaging their students in the classroom. And we'll see how school-wide community-building projects are creating a positive, inclusive culture that engages every student. Highland High School. It's a large urban school with nearly 2,000 students from diverse socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds.
A lot of times you talk about immigrants in the Southwest, you're talking about Mexican immigrants, and we certainly have that, but we also serve populations from all over the world as well.
There are 28 languages spoken here at Highland, and I see that in my classroom with the diversity of experience, with backgrounds, with languages, with personalities, with family, with home life. And there's just this huge diversity.
We are a very unique and exceptional population. The only thing that can hold each of our students back is allowing those outside of our community to say, you can't do it.
About 4 years ago, we were really looking at our demographic and recognizing that it was changing rapidly. My first year here, we were about a 73% free reduced lunch. By the time I left 4 years later, it's rated as 100% free reduced lunch. The school numbers weren't great, the testing results weren't great, the graduation results weren't great, and we recognized we needed to try something different.
Do parentheses matter, Lily?
Yeah. Highland High School began using techniques from the work of Eric Jensen designed to engage students who are living in poverty and facing overwhelming difficulties.
Cat, you get it, cat.
And they have life experience that we've never had. I respect some of these kids so much for what they go through. And I'll cry if I think about it too much. Again, I can't stop doing this. But they experience things we don't.
Children living in poverty often experience chronic stress, which affects them in a number of ways.
They show up at school, you'll see cognitive skills are impaired. They don't remember things as well. They don't process things quickly. And because of that, teachers will make judgments like, well, the kid's not maybe cut out for advanced curriculum. Another way chronic stress impacts kids is through behavior issues. Kids tend to act out a lot because one impact of chronic stress in the human brain is that we create coping strategies. And the coping strategy is either going to be, I'm going to become more hypervigilant to help manage stress and get in your face, or I'm going to be the kid that just pulls the plug and I disconnect. When kids are not engaged, they drift off into what you and I would call counterproductive states, metabolic states. For example, apathy or boredom, or I have gotten interested in something else. So engagement keeps the metabolic process going. It's not just the blood flow, but it's keeping the direction, keeping the focus, and it keeps kids cognitively involved.
Step one was helping the staff to understand that as a school, we really believed all kids could learn. And it's one thing to say that, it's another thing to really believe it and then to create actions that show that. Step two was trying to get the kids to believe it. And we did a few things around powerful words and language to really get the kids to start thinking, I can do this.
Students were given an active role in changing the culture of the school.
We started a conversation about what does it mean to have a voice, giving people a chance to speak up who are shy, don't necessarily have a chance to share, aren't necessarily heard, don't feel like they're heard. And we went around and kids asked questions on what does it mean to have a voice, and do you feel like you have one, why or why not? And that was the beginning of the We All Have a Voice project.
Inspired by the work of artist Candy Chang, We All Have a Voice gives students a place to express their gaudiest goals and aspirations.
This is fun, guys. Can you believe we did this 6 months ago?
I'm all about the importance of gaudy goals. Gaudy goals say to the kid, let's shoot for the stars. Not even the moon. Moon's boring. We're going for the stars. And sell kids on why that's the most important thing on the planet, so they get caught up in it.
To me, it means to see your dreams and what you want to do before you die and how to accomplish it. Because then when you write what you want to do, then that means it gives you a goal and motivation to be what you want to be.
I think to me it means just the school coming together as a whole, because like all of us are looked down as like underdogs, and then just to see something like this amazing going on at Highland is really good. We're kind of just connecting on a new level that we never have before.
We learned that people want to be more connected. They want to learn about each other. They want to be heard. They want to have a safe place to be. And several projects then have come from that We All Have a Voice project.
Sidewalk Talk involves students writing words of inspiration in public areas around the campus.
So what I think freshman year was like for me is it's really a foundation for the next 3 years of your life.
And Adopt a Freshie supports freshman students who are new to the school and may need help adjusting.
It's the foundation. I mean, your study habits.
This is, I think, Gaudy Goals, maybe at its finest. Here is that every freshman is going to be connected with an upperclassman.
How'd you keep your grades up when you were playing sports?
The older students advise and encourage the new students as they adjust to the school.
So it's a motivating factor. Everything you do sets the foundation. I mean, your study habits, everything, every study habit you have, it really does carry through. I mean, 8th grade year, my study habits weren't good, and I really focused on fixing them freshman year. And once I did, sophomore year was a breeze, junior year became a breeze.
Do you check in every once a week or once a month?
Whenever I see you, I'll have a conversation with you. I mean, it doesn't have to be once a week. It can be more than that. It could be less than that, depending on what your situation is at. Whenever I see you, I'll have a conversation. If you need to ask me any questions, I'm there for you. I think it's important to have a program like this at the school because I feel like it helps mold everybody together a little bit more. It just makes people feel good, I think, when everybody's one. It's not separation, it's all, everybody's together.
Amazing things are happening at the school level. And these programs support the work that teachers are doing in the classroom to engage students every day.
Engagement is important on many levels. One of the levels is that you want kids to stay in the game long enough to be able to not just graduate, on the big scale, but on a micro scale.
Très bien, il s'appelle Rex. Excellent. Alors, est-ce que vous avez les cartes de participation, your participation cards? Out on the table, étoiles, if you have them on the table, stars. If you get them in the next, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
French teacher Melinda Forward uses a number of techniques to engage her students and build positive relationships.
The goal for me is to have those kids want to be here and stay here. The longer we can keep them at school, in school, they'll learn things. And if they want to be here, they feel safe and they feel comfortable, then they'll get those academics.
She always starts with a quick, low-risk warm-up activity that eases them into learning.
Et maintenant, tournez à une autre personne. Tournez à une autre personne. Tournez à une autre personne. Everybody, tournez à une autre personne. Et comptez. Comptez de 0 à 10 avec une autre personne. With somebody else. 0 à 10. 0 à 10.
0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So we were reviewing things from the beginning, reviewing numbers, and then we were setting things up to work with a new story that was with new vocabulary. So I wanted to review the old, but then bring in the new vocabulary as well.
Très bien. Start you guys. And remember today, so we're going to do story where? Where's the story going to take place? The zoo. Très bien, le zoo. Le zoo. Le zoo. Le zoo. Oui, au zoo. Il y a une histoire au zoo. Ah. Le grand canard. Oh, c'est toi? Oh, je sais pas. Quoi? Oh, la vache? Oui.
Melinda's students use stuffed animals to help them visualize the vocabulary words. She finds that having them manipulate objects increases their ability to remember.
En français. Tournez à une autre personne et pratiquez les actions. Right, we've been doing actions since the beginning of school. So I want you to practice how many you come up with with your partner and do the actions with your animal. Like, what's an example of one?
Touche à l'année. Touche à la month. Okay. Turning.
Trapèze. Lever. Baisser.
And sauter, marcher.
Les yeux, les oreilles, les épaules, les genoux, les genoux. C'est la tête, le nez, les yeux, les oreilles, les épaules, les genoux, et les pieds, les genoux, les pieds, les pieds. Et levez-vous.
To keep their minds active, Melinda gets her students out of their chairs and moving.
Not all engagement has to be high cognitive reason. Sometimes engagement just means getting their bodies out of a chair because they're sick and tired of sitting still.
Maintenant, levez les mains, baissez les mains, touchez les pieds. Qu'est-ce que c'est les pieds? Les pieds? Écoutez-vous, you guys are young, you can't touch your toes. What's up with that? Okay, I can. Voilà, okay. Là, okay. Touchez la tête. Touchez le nez. Les yeux. Touchez les yeux. Okay, attention. Oui, les yeux. Okay, touchez les oreilles. Les oreilles, c'est ça. Écoutez avec les oreilles. Les épaules. Très bien. Les genoux. Les pieds. Les genoux. Les pieds. OK, levez-vous. OK, touchez la tête. Touchez les épaules. Touchez les genoux. Touchez les pieds. Touchez les genoux. Touchez les pieds. Levez-vous. Très bien.
She also uses music. A song keeps them energized and highlights the vocabulary they're learning.
OK. Tête, épaules, genoux, pieds, Tête, épaules, genoux, pieds, J'ai une bouche, un nez, 2 yeux et 2 oreilles. Tête, épaules, genoux, pieds, Tête, épaules, genoux, pieds, Tête, épaules, genoux, pieds, J'ai une bouche. The variety of techniques that I'm using lead one to the other. We have 100-minute classes, which is a very long amount of time for anyone to be sitting in a chair, let alone students who've been there all day long. By the time they get to my 6th period class, they've been to 3 other classes and lunch, and I'm the 4th one. So it is definitely important for me to keep them active and moving and transitioning from one activity to the next smoothly. I think we're ready. Right? And we have a crowd. They're ready.
Next, she moves to a storytelling activity. Melinda gets buy-in and encourages volunteering by offering a reward.
All right. Yes. Okay, now, like always, when there's a big thing going on here, there's chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So those of you who didn't volunteer, remember that for next time. So what you're going to do is we're going to watch them. They're going to act out the story up here. You guys are going to listen. Okay? And then it's going to come back to all of you. And guess who gets to watch?
You.
Us.
Them. They get to watch you guys and help you out, just in case you have problems. I know you won't. Okay, so they're going to do it up here first. And then you guys are going to team up. And you guys are going to act it out. La crabe, Brigitte, marche au zoo. La crabe marche au zoo. La crabe marche au lion. Brigitte, la crabe, coupe les cheveux du lion. Le lion pleure. Il pleure. Il est triste. Oh. La crabe rit. C'est bien ça. Le lion, Séraphine, gratte la crabe. Gratte la crabe, bien. La crabe court rapidement du lion. Le lion chasse la crabe. Le lion attrape la crabe. Pleure. Le lion rit. Très bien.
Et c'est ça. Applaudissez. Bravo. Merci. Merci. Alors, levez-vous. So, levez-vous. Levez-vous. If you want to kind of move to a little open space, it's all right.
I want to be the lion, so.
Et la crabe marche au lion. La crabe coupe les cheveux du lion. Oh non, le lion dit non. Le lion pleure. Le lion pleure. La crabe rit.
Wait, no, you think laugh.
No, rit. Le lion gratte la crabe. Le lion gratte la crabe. Oh non. La crabe court du lion. La crabe court du lion. Le lion chasse la crabe. Le lion chasse la crabe. Chasser. Le lion attrape la crabe. La crabe pleure. La crabe pleure. Le lion rit. Très bien. OK, applaudissez. 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 Ouais. I want you guys, volunteers, to give me one thing that happened in the story. Okay, so think about it. Think about it.
Okay, le penguin mange les lions.
Très bien. Le pingouin mange les lions.
Oh,
Mange les lions. Très bien. Oh, Odette, you can choose the next person. There you go. Voilà. Okay, Yves, one thing that's happened.
Frappe.
Frappe. Très bien. So who frappe? Qui frappe qui? Who frappes who? Le pingouin frappe le lion. Le lion. Très bien.
Le lion dance.
Très bien. Voilà. It's really neat to be able to kind of get out and beyond and show kids that things are accessible, that they maybe never thought, and just to show the kids that they can do it. I think that's a big thing, because once they know you believe, and if they really believe, and that you believe in them, they will do so much more. So that's a huge thing for me.
Le lion rit.
Le rire, oui, très bien, le lion rit, bravo.
What I'd like for you guys to do right now is to take your arms and put them above your head as you take a deep breath in. Stretch, and then exhale, and say hello to your neighbors while I put the review questions up.
English teacher Heather McGuire starts every class period with this daily ritual that focuses her students and puts them in the right frame of mind for learning. It's just one of a number of different activities she uses to engage her students.
What I'd like to start off with today is waking up your brains, working on your memory and your knowledge of stories. Working memory is something we use every day, but sometimes is not as strong as we'd like. Yes? Do you guys ever forget things?
Yeah. Yes.
Matter of fact, some of you have asked me before, what did we do yesterday? And I can't even remember that. So let's practice and work on our memory with a fun game. Here's what you'll do. It's a round-robin story, but I want you to make sure you include all 6 elements of stories: plot, setting, character, tone, etc. So here's how you'll do it. You prime them with something that's comfortable and fun so that they start smiling and start thinking in a safe environment. And then from there, you slowly kind of step it up a little bit in complexity.
Is the party too hard?
I had homework for English last night because I'm mad and I didn't do it.
Sounds like nonfiction. Go ahead, add to that.
And she fell.
Now take a minute and go over. What are the elements? What was your plot, setting, character, theme, point of view, etc.? Review that very quickly with your table. See if you can keep the story still in your head.
At the end of the activity, one group volunteers to tell their story.
All right, there was a little girl running into the woods because she wanted to go find the gingerbread man. Then she tripped. Afterwards, Little Red Riding Hood showed up because she wanted to go find Jack the Slayer or whatever to climb a tree. And then Little Red Riding Hood tripped.
Aw, poor Little Red Riding Hood.
And then everyone died.
Oh, a sad ending. That's like every book I'll have you read this year.
Really?
So, pretty much. Now, Wendy, tell me, who's your protagonist?
The girl.
Okay, and what was the conflict?
That she tripped.
Was it first or third person?
Third.
Very nice. Give her a round of applause. Chris too. All right. When I ask you what is the purpose of education, some of you tell me, I don't know, don't you? So what I want to focus on today is how we can make better decisions, right? Because we're faced with them all the time. And one bad decision can lead to all sorts of problems. Take, for example, our character in the story we'll look at today, Connie. She had to make a decision, didn't she? Yeah. And did she make the right decision? Well, we'll think about that later. In the meantime, take a look at this cartoon and make sure that that's not you in the future just shrugging rather than making a decision. Your notes will be back here, and I will ask you to participate in some of these notes. So, take a look and write these down. There we go. All right, decision making, right? How many of you have ever felt like this beautiful drawing of a guy or a girl here? I have, yes? Here's my question for you to talk with an elbow partner. What was the hardest decision you ever had to make, and how did you make the decision? Take a minute and talk to your neighbor.
Teachers have to be willing to share a little bit of themselves. That doesn't mean the whole world revolves around you, but little tiny 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, these little snippets, they keep kids in the game because now they start to get interested in your life.
So, let me ask you, can anyone share with me the hardest decision they ever had to make? What was it that you had to do? I'll share with you one of mine, and I bet you yours will be much more innocent. I don't know, what, 10 years back? I had to decide whether or not to testify at my parents' divorce for my father against my mother. That was a hard decision, wasn't it? No matter what I decided, there were going to be consequences. So I struggled with that decision, and I didn't know how I was going to make it. Have any of you ever been in a situation similar that you'd be willing to share?
My mom wanted more custody with me and my brother, and my dad did not. And so I went to court with them and kind of discussed it with the judge and everybody in front of both my parents, which house I'd rather live at.
Terribly difficult, wasn't it? How did you make that decision?
Right now I'm doing 8 days at my mom's house and 6 days at my dad's house, switch off and on, so that way they both got to see us.
Good. So a compromise. Is that working out for you?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think that the majority of my students are from single-family homes. As you could see in the classroom, when I asked about a decision, one of the students volunteered the struggle in their own home life between the mother and father and breaking up. And this, I think, is a big part of our students' experience of the world. And not only that, but we do live in the center of the city. So we're kind of known as a school that has a population that struggles perhaps more than others, economically, you know, maybe just with crime around the area. So there's a lot of issues that they face when they leave our classrooms, which is why it's so important for us to make them feel safe and welcome here. So important decisions like that, I appreciate you sharing, Levin, deserve our thought and our logical thought, right? So let's talk about decision making. I think most of the time we make our decisions based on intuition, what feels good, right? What our gut tells us. Most of the time that's where we go. And that's okay because we have to make so many decisions. Not all of them do we need to sit down and think as deeply as the one Levin shared with us. The other approach is using reasoning. And that's the one that I think Levin and I should probably use in important decisions like this.
Heather shifts the discussion of decision-making from their personal experiences to the story they've been reading.
And let's apply this to the story you read, right? Connie, she has a decision to make, doesn't she? Who can tell me about what decision Connie has to make?
The decision she has to make is if she wants to go into the car with that guy or stay home.
Okay, good. So here for...
Then she changes tactics again to refocus their energy and thinking.
Another thing Jensen does that's good for attitude is incorporating music into your classroom. Our students are in love with music. I can barely get the headphones out of their ears, so I might as well pay them back by incorporating music where I can and maybe exposing them to some different kind of music that aligns with what I'm teaching them. This story was written by Joyce Carol Oates in 1966. She's a Canadian author who moved to America pretty early. In 1966, Bob Dylan was very popular, and there also was a string of murders going on that she was familiar with. She was inspired by both of these things to write this story. So next, I'd like you to take your paper, your story, stand up, and meet with someone here in this room born in the same month as you. While you do that, I'm going to play the song by Bob Dylan that she was inspired by. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're standing, have a seat with the people you're talking to. So the three of you, just, be quiet for a second, and let's hear Bob Dylan singing with his voice. With these kind of techniques, you can put kids in good moods. And there's something about teaching that in the past we thought it always had to be so serious, right? And I started to realize that not only do you not have to be serious, but I think we sort of, and you joke around all the time, I think we sort of learn even better if we're not serious all the time, and that we smile and have fun too.
Okay, let's take a look at your work, guys. You just turned it in. We're going to look at your responses.
Math teacher Luis Guzman uses technology to engage his students. It allows everyone a chance to participate and even provides opportunities for self-directed learning because the students have a say in the direction of the lesson.
This was Math Review 3.4. And let's see. The poll question that I asked at the end of the math review was, which problem would you like to go over? And as a group, you guys decided problem 3. So we're going to make sure we focus really good on 3.
We're trying to get the kids to learn how to do math in a way that's different than pencil and paper. It's very centered on programming, which that's where math takes you. You know, you end up becoming a programmer. If you can do this stuff, you're going to do well in computers, wherever you're going to go. It's also a valuable tool for me where I can see all their responses. We can talk about all the different ways to do the math. That's different than traditionally where you'd walk around and look at each kid and correct it. Here they can see everyone's learning where they're at. Oh, that kid did that differently. That's really awesome. I'm going to remember how to do that. And it makes a difference for these kids. It really does.
You can submit your work by pressing Doc, Submit. Now, why is it okay to use N and also use X? What do they represent, N and X? What do you got?
Because they're both just representing a number.
A number?
It could be any number. It's a variable.
It's a variable. Okay, cool. Thank you. This is why this works. This is what we do with algebra. We assume that we can change that number. Okay, problem number 2, order of operations. There's only one right answer because we can do our math the same way regardless of what continent we're on, right? Everyone knows that order. So if we do the order of operations, the answer should have been, you all got it.
Yay, we're smart.
Everyone here knew exactly what to do. Look at that, guys. Nice job. Most likely this means
Kids coming to school, many of them don't hear much of a good word all day. So in a classroom that is a good instructional climate, kids get a lot of positive feedback, a lot of affirmation. And it's not just woohoo, throw anything at them to see if it'll stick, but it's sincere.
Because you guys obviously understand how to do this, even though it's complex. Look at that. 20 divided by 4 minus the quantity 2 times 5 minus 8. That didn't bother you guys. Awesome. Okay, problem number 3. This is the one that you all said, Guzman, we need to see it on the board. Awesome. Okay, evaluate the following function. F of x equals 4x squared plus x minus 3. Who can raise their hand and explain exactly what you're supposed to do with this math problem? Let's see if we can get a new voice, okay?
We're supposed to put -1 into all the x's.
Okay. That's correct. That's all we have to do. Basically, we're asking what is the output if what number is the input? What's the input number? -1. What's the output?
Once the warm-up is completed, Luis moves to a data analysis activity. He uses quick polls to assess his students' understanding of the lesson and to spark discussion.
Poll question. I'm going to go over the top 2 with you today, just the top 2 problems. Because you guys are going to be doing your unit exam soon on data analysis, I wanted to share with you one more data set to practice and play with. And this one was interesting. This was a data set that was looking at scores again. These are going to be scores of 8th graders that took an algebra test. And they connected that grade with their parents' education, the highest level of education their parents got. We're also going to look at data between a state that's considered poor and a state that's considered rich. And we're going to talk about that as well. Okay? Now, to start with, I'm actually going to send out a quick poll to you, and I want to see what you guys think of this question. Let's see your responses.
I want them to use data to strengthen whatever argument they have. If all you do is write down a sentence without that mathematical information, you're just showing me an opinion, and that's not as strong as backing it up with actual numbers. And mathematicians, we trust them because they tend to back things up with numbers. And I want them to feel like, oh, the work I'm doing here is valid. I can take this home, I can talk to my parents about it, it's valid. I think in the end what I want them to do is use data analysis to become better arguers, better thinkers.
Okay, you guys are done with that. I'm going to stop the poll. Let's see what you guys thought. Looks like we're split down the middle. You can't plan for it to happen that way. That's just the way it happens. So happy you said yes, happy you said no. Can I get someone to raise their hand who said yes? I'd like to know why you thought yes. So someone who said yes that we haven't heard from yet? We got some new voices? Okay.
Maybe the parents paid for a better education or what they thought was a better education.
So the parents paid for a better education? Okay. I can tell you that we're going to look at schools from kids that are in public school, not private school. So I'm going to focus on that. So.
But like maybe they had tutoring.
Maybe the kids had tutoring.
Yeah.
Who said no? I'd love to hear from someone who said no. Okay, Antonio. Antonio, why are you saying no?
Because it doesn't necessarily mean that like the student will actually pay attention more or do better. It's really, it just depends on the students and what they want to do.
Okay, so the parents' money should have nothing to do with this.
Not
cool.
really.
All right, thank you for that.
I said yes because if you have like more supplies, it might help. So they could also like help fund the school, or like if like because like when you're an athlete, it helps with like focusing more. Like in some cases, if you have something like else to do, it like gets your mind off, so you're more relaxed when you go into tests and stuff like that.
Okay. Those are all reasonable things for why we should see a yes or a no. Who wants to look at the data now? Okay. Let's take a look at the data. Let's see what the data actually shows us, because that's always telling.
A lot of these kids never actually ever leave New Mexico. You know, they don't know what it's like outside of there, or they're stuck in their narrow world, and I really want to help them use data to see what the world looks like outside of New Mexico.
What you're seeing right here is an infographic. They color-coded all of the states for 2011, and they're showing the mean household income. I'm sorry, median household income. It's the middle number of the data set. The darker the color, the more money the state has. So where's a lot of the money in the United States sitting right now?
New York.
Yeah.
A lot of money sitting right there. This is the mean household income. So they look at the income of the adults living in the house, and they add it up, and they say, oh, that's how much money they have. So if you're dark green, your median income is $64,000 to $70,000 a year. Wow. What's New Mexico? Well, we're kind of light-colored.
Really second to last.
$40,000 to $46,000 a year.
Luis breaks up the class into their cooperative learning groups to discuss the data.
So for my kids, it's going to be important in my math classes that they're always sharing their ideas. So I do create situations where they are answering questions for me through the calculator, and we can look at all their ideas on the board and talk about them. I offer chances for kids to speak up when they want to. But most importantly, I encourage them to work well in groups. And I try to set norms with them and make sure everyone's voice is heard within a group.
So house classless, that can be people who might not have a greater education, doesn't make that much money, meaning they couldn't buy a nicer house in a nicer neighborhood.
Okay, so you're talking about the amount of money they get.
Yeah, and then also because they have to, some people have to go to school which is closest to them. That could be
How about available jobs?
What are some of the reasons you think that there's poverty in our neighborhood?
We're in the war zones.
What does it mean when we're in the war zone? I don't know. Well, it is a nickname for this neighborhood. Yeah. What does that mean, war zone? What do you think of when you think of a war zone?
There's a lot of gang violence.
Gang violence? Okay.
I think of like army, like, and sometimes gang violence leads to like less money, or it's related somehow.
A lot of people here from the war zone go here, and then there's a lot of damages, which is why there's a lot of damages and graffiti around here.
A lot of damages where?
Damage like everywhere, like on the streets.
There's damage like in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
How do damaged houses contribute to poverty?
Because the people that live in there can't pay for it.
People can't pay for what?
Luis's students face many challenges in their neighborhoods and homes, so he wants to make sure his classroom is a safe place where the learning is engaging and fun.
You with me on that?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys share your ideas. I'm gonna come.
School is supposed to be fun. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to give the kids a reason to want to come back through your door. If it's serious, if it's hardcore, if it's rule, it's nose to the grindstone, kids don't want to return to that.
He's over there.
There's a Walmart.
All right, everybody stand up, please.
Like Luis, English teacher Scott Virtue works to create a safe learning environment for his special needs students, engaging them with instruction that incorporates movement, games, and music.
Shoulders. Crossover. Now twist. Hold it and twist. Okay.
This is the first class of the day. Scott starts with stretching to help his 9th graders settle down and focus on learning.
Okay, switch. Reverse the twist. Push your hands forward. Namaste. All right, have a seat, everybody.
Then he moves on to a low-risk warm-up, a reading meant to spark thinking and discussion.
Death happens because life happens. Creatures die because creatures live. It sounds so simple, yet this truth has been somehow sterilized out of life today. Interesting. Do you guys ever think about death? No.
I do.
You do, Telly? What do you think about?
My dog died 2 days before my birthday.
Like this past year?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, so has anybody have a pet that's passed away? Dogs?
I've had a couple pets.
Okay. I guess that is, has anybody had any family members or anything? That is, like grandmother or great-grandmother? No, not yet? All right, that's when you really start thinking about it. I think I was in college when my uncle passed away, the first person that was really close to me.
Sharing some details from his life and his experience helps Scott build relationships with his students.
A big thing for creating classroom culture is kids need to know that you care, so the relationship has always got to be the foundation.
All right, can anybody tell me what solidarity means?
Solidarity means a group.
Okay, can you guys all hold hands, please, right now? Hold hands, come on, hold the hands together. Grab his hand, you grab his hand, come on. Okay, on 3. 1, 2, 3, say solidarity.
Solidarity.
All right, okay, so it helps us to do something physical to remember things, but I think you guys got that word down. They're a little bit like I was when I was a student. I had a single mom and had some problems with reading. Also, like me, I think they can be creative and insightful. I'm always surprised at my students. Does anybody know what a metaphor is?
Something comparing.
Yes, you're comparing something to something else. That is correct. Is a simile the same thing as a metaphor?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It just compares. If I say like, it is a simile. Okay? If I say like or as, it's simile. Same thing. Metaphor and simile, same things. But if you see the word like or as, it'll be simile. Now, today when we do our song, I want you guys, there's at least one simile I've seen in the song. Okay? And I want you to find it for me. Can anybody remember what hyperbole is?
To exaggerate.
That is perfect, Charles. To exaggerate.
Scott uses visual reinforcement, drawing pictures and creating images in their brains to help them remember key vocabulary words.
All right. This sheet is to draw a picture to help remind you what the vocabulary words are. Okay, so we held hands to remember what solidarity. The more ways we can hook these words on our brains, the better. So Abby, what is hyperbole?
To exaggerate.
Yes, perfect. So if I said I went to the state fair and I got a funnel cake and they put a mountain of whipped cream on it. Okay, is it a mountain actually? Is it an actual mountain that people can climb like Mount Everest? No, but it's a figurative way of saying something, right? I'm saying something in an interesting way instead of just saying there was a large volume of whipped cream on my funnel cake. You know, you don't want to say that, right? So, so when you draw a picture for hyperbole, you can draw something that's a big exaggeration. Okay. Tally. What is personification?
Personification? So like an example?
Yes, it is an example. It is a figure of speech. And if I'm personifying something, if I'm making something into a person, can you give me an example of that?
If I can remember straight, I do have one called Hold My Pencil, Dance Across My Paper.
Fantastic, yes. Can a pencil actually dance across the paper?
No.
No, it cannot. But when we're writing, we don't want to just say, well, I was writing particularly well that day. You know, no. My pencil danced across the paper. And in songs, right? We don't want to make our lyrics boring.
Scott uses a fun method to get his kids engaged in text analysis. He has them listen to songs and study lyrics.
Unity, excellent. Okay, we do a song every day, is that correct?
Yes. Every single day.
Every single day we do a song. Why do we do songs?
Teachers how to learn.
Yeah. Comprehension, correct. We're learning deeper comprehension. Here we go. I want you guys to read these lyrics very carefully. I'm not going to talk about the song. I'm going to let you guys just absorb it. And just you tell me. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. And basically the kids are getting excited and buying in and picking songs and helping me learn about the music that they're interested in.
When Scott notices attention flagging, he uses a quick game or activity to change their state of mind and help them refocus.
All right. When I say, I want everybody to hold their breath. Take a deep breath and hold your breath, okay? And when you can't hold your breath anymore, go ahead and let it out. Take in a breath, but you have to sit down, okay? So, are we ready? Sometimes you'll ask a student a question like, okay, what was that song about? And they're just kind of looking at you. So then you got to do something else. You got to just shake them up a little bit. All right, I want you guys to look at this text, okay? I want you to write me something about it. I want you to tell me, did you see any metaphors? What is the first line of this? Yes, what did you see?
Oh, your mind gets twisted just like a pretzel.
Your mind gets twisted just like a pretzel. Okay? That's awesome. That's why I think Tupac is the Shakespeare of rap. Okay? Your mind gets twisted just like a pretzel. And what's the line before that? Living in the ghetto?
Yeah, living in the ghetto.
Your mind gets twisted just like a pretzel? Yeah. He could say it's stressful living in the ghetto, or we use figurative language and we say it twists your mind up just like a pretzel. Now, what's the first line of this song? What does it say?
Resist the temptation.
Resist the temptation of what? Like, what does it say right here?
The song
of the beast.
Okay. Resist the temptation of the beast. Is he talking about an actual beast, like a dinosaur? What? No, it's a metaphor, right? And what does the beast mean? What is he saying?
like a boss.
Yes. It could be a boss. It could be like some stressful situation, like when my principal comes up here and says, "What are you doing Tupac for?" You know, correct?
Talks about the devil, yeah.
The devil is in there, absolutely. Is the devil? Does he actually mean the devil, or is he using it as a metaphor?
Maybe use it as a metaphor.
Yeah, for those things that we just talked about. Okay. Also, guys, you can write about.
Scott follows the discussion with a writing assignment. Students analyze the lyrics and back up their thinking with text evidence. Scott goes from student to student giving feedback.
It's a lot of songs.
I think the song is like starting out negative. Then like as it's working to the end, it's like positive.
Angel, that's brilliant, okay? Because, yeah, I think ultimately he is talking about what we have to do. You know, I mean, it is tough. Life is tough. We're faced with all kinds of things. There's gonna be those temptations. But he's saying, you know, it is kind of hopeful. It's about like, we can do this. We can get through this. You know what I mean? We can. But yeah, it is kind of negative. I'll agree with you. It is kind of a negative, and it's sad. The song is kind of sad. But I don't know. It's kind of like he's saying, I think we can resist things a little bit. All right. What does this say? There is a hint of
suicide. Right?
Oh, suicide. Yeah.
I forget to spell suicide today. Don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think in this song, the dad kills himself. Yeah. And maybe the mom does too. Yeah. You caught that. Excellent, Charles. One of my philosophy classes, we studied Kierkegaard, and he said to be a teacher, you have to be a learner. And you have to learn where your students are at, or what they're good at, or where their strengths are, and then you can start to maybe hope to teach them.
Highland High School will continue to build on the progress they've made engaging students and building relationships.
What do you got?
Well, you know, and I'll tell you, some of the finest teaching happens in schools like this because these teachers are asked to do so much more. There's no, you know...
They come with a full tool belt.
They need to really work hard, and they've got to adapt to so many conditions and so many challenges, and it's really remarkable work.
We want critical thinkers, we want problem solvers, and you know, I think that's what we're trying to initiate within education now. Instead of just teaching, it's all about how do we learn and how do we teach our kids to learn. So I think that's the importance around that cognitive development is provide definition, provide opportunity for students to be able to define who they are and where they want to go.
The human brain is designed to be able to be responsive to the environments we live in. If you want kids to be different, the environment's got to be different. If they show up at school and they immediately feel camaraderie, if they love being in their class, if the team is good, if they feel the material's relevant, if they love the goals they have, like gaudy, amazing goals, and they're engaged, suddenly their experience is different. So then their brain adapts and becomes different. You say, I'm going to be the teacher that the kids remember, and they remember for a good reason. They remember who they became during that time with me. You can be that teacher. Why? Brains can change, and that means not just your kids, but it means you can change too.
This family and this family. Okay, so I can